If you have two working eyes, then you saw the thumbnail to this video. We are here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to win some games. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't look into the future. I don't have the script to the NFL season. But what I do have are my 5 favorite picks that I'm about to share with you all. And so in return, what I need is for your complete, undivided, and uninterrupted attention so we can talk about these games and we can talk about Pick 5, Win 5. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else in between. Welcome back to my betting show where it is my job to give you my 5 favorite plays in the sports betting world. Now, the Pick 5, Win 5, we have been taking some days off because I tell you what, we know it's all about the NFL season, baby. The MLB picks were fun while they lasted, but the NFL is here and it reigns supreme, and we all know that. Now, we had a slow start to the season, missed the opening night game, and then we got smoked in the 1 o'clock games in week 1. But I tell you what, we bounced back. We're now 4-4 so far in this very young season, and we have hit our last 3 game picks in a row, all of them being primetime games. We had the Cowboys spread versus the Giants on Sunday Night Football. We had the under in the Bills-Jets game on Monday Night Football. And then we had the Vikings plus 6.5 on Thursday Night Football. And you know what? Maybe it was a backdoor cover, but it was a deserved cover because without those 4 fumbles, should have been 5, or it could have been 5, I should say. Without those fumbles, the Vikings probably would have won that game. So a deserved cover by the Vikings. And like I said, guys, I've got my 5 favorite picks for Sunday's action right here to share with you in just a moment. But before I do, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so that you are locked into all of the content that is coming to the channel in the future. Like the video, because those of you who have already liked it, you are absolute legends. We all know that. Now, let me tell you about my first pick for the weekend. I'm going with the big dogs, the best team in the NFL, even though they are winless. The Kansas City Chiefs -3 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this game does have the possibility to be close, and with 3 points, if that's the ultimate difference, the Chiefs won't get a win, but they will get a push, and we will take that. But I think this is a prime spot for the Chiefs to bounce back. The Jaguars are one of a handful of teams in the AFC that have a chance to rival the Chiefs' era of dominance, and we've seen from the Chiefs, whatever teams have been trying to push them to the edge, they've been able to pull the big bro card on pretty much all of them. The one exception was the Cincinnati Bengals, but they got their revenge. They knocked them out of the AFC Championship game last year. The Buffalo Bills have not been able to take that leap. There was a time where the Tennessee Titans were making it to the AFC Championship game. That wasn't going to fly. The Chiefs were down 24-0 to the Houston Texans a few years ago in the playoffs. They win that game, I think 41-24. Pretty much all challengers, again, aside from the Bengals, who they've been splitting with. The Chiefs have been able to put them back down, and I think that's what's going to happen with the Jaguars here. Now, the Jaguars did win in week 1, 31-21 against the Colts, but they really weren't that impressive. Trevor Lawrence was awesome. Calvin Ridley was awesome, but the rest of the team, not so much. I mean, Travis Etienne, he was all right. Again, the rest of the team didn't think they were particularly great on the offensive line. The defense made Anthony Richardson look a lot more polished than they probably should have. And this is also, you got to remember, this is the return of Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. Both those guys are going to make huge differences to their respective sides of the football. And the Chiefs defense, this might be the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career he has a top 10, top 15 defense behind him. I think they did really well against the Lions, and it's an explosive team in the Jaguars. They're going to have their work cut out for them, but I think this is a spot where you got to take the Chiefs. A lot of the sharp money is on the Chiefs, and so we're going to take that. We are going to take Chiefs -3 for the first pick. It does require a little bit of line shopping. We'll say that because at most spots, you got to get the Chiefs for -3.5. And I wouldn't love that as much as I would be able to get in the push out of the 3 points. So Chiefs -3, that's the first pick. My second pick is the Washington Commanders +3.5 on the road against the Denver Broncos. Both these teams gave up similar amounts of points in week 1. The Commanders gave up 16 to the Cardinals. The Broncos gave up 17 to the Raiders, who I would say have roughly equal offenses. Maybe the Raiders is a little bit better, but here's the big difference between them. The Commanders were able to hold the Cardinals to 28% on third down. The Broncos allowed the Raiders to convert on 45% of their third downs. That will be a big difference. Denver was only 7-10 against the spread last season, and they are 0-1 against the spread to start the year. The Commanders also 0-1 to start the season this year as far as against the spread, but they had a winning record last year on the road, 4-3-1. This game's likely to be low scoring, and in low scoring games, the importance of every point is heightened, because if If there are fewer points scored, then 1 point represents a larger percentage of the total points in that game. Does that make sense? And with a line of plus 3.5, we know the Commanders can lose by a field goal and still ultimately covered this spread. Now, the Commanders have not started 2-0 since 2011, so you're asking for a lot from them to get a money line win here. But the Broncos last week, that was arguably the best game that Russell Wilson has played in his tenure in Denver. And he still had less than 200 passing yards. He did have a quarterback rating of just about 80, but again, they still lost that game to the Raiders at home. And the team, Sean Payton, I still hold as an excellent head coach, and I think most people do. But the Broncos committed 10 penalties. That's a reflection on coaching. It tells me they weren't prepared to play. This Commanders team, they've got a tough defense. And the offense, it has explosiveness. This is where the big difference in the game is. The Broncos are going to consistently try to paper cut their way to the end zone, whereas the Commanders are going to have a big play here and there, and then they're going to turn it. They're going to have a 3 and out, and then they're score a long touchdown. They're going to have a 3 and out. But I just think the upside for the Commanders is too much here, and at plus 3.5, that line, I really like it. So that is the second pick. My third pick is the Ravens plus 3.5 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, there's a lot of sharp money on the Bengals, which does make me a little bit concerned. And when I say sharp money, I mean there's a higher ticket percentage for the Ravens, but a lower monetary percentage, a lower handle percentage. So the sharps, for the most part, are on the Bengals. As a matter of fact, I saw a bet for like $250K on Bengals -3. Again, though, this is Ravens plus 3.5. Again, do your line shopping. You want to get that half point. It is super important. Let me tell you about why I do like the Ravens here. Now, let me just address the critics. First of all, yes, the Ravens are very banged up. Tyler Linderbaum is questionable. The left tackle is questionable. They've got a couple injuries in the secondary. J.K. Dobbins is out for the year. I totally understand all of that. And if that turns you off, I do 100% understand. But the Ravens, in their last 22 games as underdogs, are 18-3-1 against the spread. 18-3-1 against the spread in their last 22 games as an underdog. That is very important in my opinion. And now the Bengals usually start the year slow, but they don't start as slow as they did in week 1. They lost 24-3 to the Browns. Granted, the Browns have owned the Bengals recently, but Joe Burrow had 82 passing yards on 31 attempts. I don't care. That's not a bad day. It's flatly not. Joe Burrow is the second best football player in the entire world. There is nothing that should leave him throwing for 82 yards in an entire game that he starts and finishes. What does that tell me? He's not healthy. Either he's not healthy, that calf is still bothering him, or he is healthy, but his mind isn't. It's still sitting back there. Whichever one it is, going out and throwing for 82 passing yards does not build any sort of confidence. Again, whether it's mental or physical, last week did not help his case whatsoever. Now, there is the chance that I am ultimately wrong. Burrow goes out, throws for 300, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, because again, he's the second best football player in the entire world. But I can't look at that stat line of 82 yards and say this is actually Joe Burrow. It's Joe Burrow in name. It's not Joe Burrow in play. Now, Lamar Jackson was not good either. I don't want to make it seem as if he was. He had less than 200 passing yards, an interception, less than 40 yards rushing. I totally get that. But I think Lamar is going to feel that there's more pressure on him without Dobbins in the backfield. I think he's going to be running the ball a lot more. I could easily see him going for 70, 80 yards. This isn't on my picks here because I do want to give only game picks on the Pick 5 Win 5, but I highly recommend Lamar over 45.5 rushing yards. I wrote a preview for one of my clients, Forbes Betting, wrote a preview for them on this game. That was my favorite player prop, Lamar over 45.5. I would be absolutely hammering that. I've got a couple units on it myself already. The defense, yes, I'm concerned that the secondary is banged up. But again, if Burrow can't throw the ball, I don't see that coming back to bite them. And the Bengals only rushed for 75 total yards last week. We know the Ravens have a very excellent defense, even with the injuries. And that history of them covering as underdogs, we know that they're able to chop and change the lineup and still find success. So the Ravens, plus 3.5. That was very long-winded, but that's my third pick. My fourth pick, and I'll be honest, this is the one I do feel the worst about of the 5. I do want to put that out there. This is the one I'm least confident in, but I'm taking Seahawks plus 4.5 on the road at the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions were 3-1 as home favorites against the spread last year, but they were never favored by more than 4 points. And now 4.5 isn't significantly more than 4.5 than 4 was, but it just goes to show the increase in expectations that we are starting to get for the Lions here. Here's a big stat for you though. Since 2014, 63% of teams that lose by double digits in week 1 cover the spread in week 2. So in other words, teams that lose by double digits in week 1 go on to cover the spread 63% of the time over the last 9 years. That criteria fits the Seahawks, who lost by 16 to the LA Rams last week. And the Seahawks also won 48-45 at Detroit last season. They won outright in a super high scoring game. Road teams were also 12-4 against the spread in week 1. So there's a lot of information going for us here to tell us a lot of trends, a lot of recent precedent to say go with the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks weren't amazing as far as road underdogs last season. They were 6-6 against the spread when they were underdogs last year. But I was high on the Seahawks entering the season. And no, I was not encouraged by their week 1 performance. No, nor should anybody be. There was no reason to believe in them given with what they put on tape in week 1. But it's just 1 week. It is important not to overreact to what you saw. Is it important to react and adjust? Absolutely. But overreact? No, don't overreact. And let's talk about the Lions here real quick, because we know Jared Goff is excellent at home. This team just beat the Kansas City Chiefs in primetime on the season opener. All of that's great. The Lions offense actually wasn't that amazing in week 1. They scored 21 points. 7 of them were on a pick 6. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. 7 of them were on a pick 6. And another 7 were on a drive where they had to run a fake punt inside their own side of the field. I think within their own 30-yard line. So as far as regular drives go, they did only score 7 points. Now, again, they are much better at home. And yes, I am being nitpicky, but it wasn't a flawless performance. It wasn't a dominant performance. They looked good. They absolutely looked good. I want to give them their respect. It was a very good performance. But I think the Seahawks are going to be a good team this year. I'm not giving up on them just yet. And so I'm going to take Seahawks plus 4.5 for my 4th pick. My 5th and final pick will be the Miami Dolphins minus 2.5 versus the New England Patriots. This one being on Sunday Night Football, I do believe. Tua in his career in the NFL is 4-0 against the Patriots. He led a 20-7 win over them in Miami last year. He did not play the game in New England because he was injured at that point. But the Dolphins look like they have the most explosive offense in the entire league. And the Patriots, even though Mac Jones threw for 316 yards, I think that's more of a reflection of the decline in the Eagles' defense. I don't think he's that amazing, and I really don't like the Patriots' weapons whatsoever. Going into the season, I said Juju Smith-Schuster is a wide receiver 3 at best. There are reports they don't even view him as one of the 5 best receivers on the roster right now. So I seem to have been vindicated in that. Patriots do have an excellent defense. Matthew Judon can get after the quarterback. They can stop the run. I recognize all of that. But when push comes to shove, the Patriots, I don't think, can consistently stop the Dolphins from pushing the ball down the field. All the Dolphins need to do to cover this game is stop the run. You saw their defense step up in the biggest moment last week on that final drive of the Chargers, force a turnover on downs to effectively end the game. We like the Dolphins minus 2.5 for the 5th and final pick. And now we're going to close out the show just a little bit differently than we normally do. I'm going to add my favorite teaser and my favorite survivor pick to the Pick 5, Win 5 every Friday or Saturday whenever the videos ultimately do end up going out. Now, the reason for this, last week, I hit a teaser and I hit my survivor pick, and I said, you know what? I should probably put this out to the people. Last week, I'm trying to remember who I had. I had a 3-leg, 7-point teaser for plus 120. I think I had the Commanders at, no, it was 6 points or 7 points. I don't know. I had the Commanders, I think, on the money line. The Patriots plus 10.5, and I forget who the last one was, but it ended up hitting pretty easily. And then I had the Ravens against the Texans as my survivor pick. So yeah, we're going to talk about those real quick. My favorite teaser for this week, and this goes back to the value of line shopping and all that. It's 3 legs, 6.5 points for plus 130 odds. The first leg is the Bills from minus 8.5 to minus 2 versus the Raiders. It's the Colts from plus 1 to plus 7.5 versus the Texans, and the 49ers from minus 7 to minus 0.5 against the Rams. So in total, the parlay, after we do the adjustments, looks like Bills minus 2 versus the Raiders, Colts plus 7.5 versus the Texans, and 49ers minus 0.5 versus the Rams. That's my teaser. And my survivor pick is the one and only Dallas Cowboys to beat the New York Jets. History, miracles will not happen again. Dallas gets a win, and they start to resemble America's team once again. Guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Like the video if you did enjoy. Comment, let me know which of my plays you like, which of them you don't like, what your favorite picks are. And until next time, I will see you all very soon. Have a great day.